In today's fishing video, I'm gonna learn you something. I've been fishing for a lot of years, and I'm gonna take away that pain arc that comes with fly fishing, because a lot of people don't talk about this when doing fly fishing videos. So that is what we're gonna talk about today, and I hope that you can take away a few nuggets that'll help you the next time you get out there and fly fish. All right, well, I'd like to hear from you, some of you that have been fly fishing for a while. What lessons have you learned the hard way that you can share with the group, and so that they can potentially not do that themselves? Love to hear your experiences down in the comments. So the first thing I want you to consider is that when you are fishing your favorite spot, you might be inclined to post on social media. Now, I want to encourage you not to name the spot. That is called hotspotting. And unless you want the place that you love the most nuked, or incur the wrath of the entire internet, post the fish, don't post the spot. Trust me on this one. I've learned that the hard way. The next tip I'm gonna give you, and this is a big one because you could lose the big one, is not checking your knots after catching a really big fish. I've caught some big fish in my time, and I've been too lazy to check the knot or retie because it held up for that fish. Why wouldn't it hold up for the next one? But I can't tell you how many fish I lost because I was being lazy, and the teeth from that previous fish weakened the knot, and I ended up losing another nice fish because I didn't check my knot. So if you catch a really toothy big fish, safer than sorry, right? Cut it off and retie your knot. The next thing most new fly fishermen learn the hard way is not checking behind you to make sure you have enough room for your backcast. Remember, as far forward as your cast is going, it's going backwards the same direction. I hooked a lot of trees and branches, and still do today, because I've misjudged how much room. But a lot of new people, when they start off fly fishing, don't realize that when they go to cast, all that line that you want to shoot forward is also going to shoot backwards. And if you got a bunch of trees and stuff, you want to make sure, look around, check your surroundings to kind of gauge how much room you have before you make the cast, so you don't spend the entire day untangling from trees and branches. Also, if you're finding this video helpful, check out my channel. I do a lot of these type of videos to help you get better in the sport of fly fishing. And I also post a lot of inspirational content as well. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the next upload. And I upload a ton of content designed to teach you to get better at the sport of fly fishing. All right, next tip, pay attention to what the fish is doing. A lot of times the fish will tell you what to tie on next. Typically, I will fish the same fly for about 20 minutes to a half an hour. And if I don't get any bites, I'm gonna tie something new on, right? To try to give the fish something new to look at. But pay attention to what the fish are doing, right? If all of a sudden you see some splashing happening and you see a fish come out of the water aggressively, they are probably taking dry flies. So try to find something in your box. You don't have to match the hatch perfectly. Just try to get something the same size of whatever you see floating on the surface of the water and tie that on. If you see a boil underneath the water, and that's the fish basically making a turn right underneath the surface. Typically, they're eating something aquatic, and it's generally something that's suspended in the water column, like a chironomid or a pre-emerger just below the surface, and kind of tie on your next fly based off of what you see the fish doing. And a lot of times you'll find success, or more success, if you do that. Now, I've learned this tip the hard way, so I'm gonna save you about 80 bucks, right? If your fly line gets stuck on the ground around a stick or a rock, resist the urge to give it a yank. Fly lines are durable, but they're not durable when it comes to sharp rocks. If your line is stuck on the ground around a really, thorny bush or a sharp rock, if you give it a yank, a lot of times you could damage that outside cover of the floating line, and now that line starts to perform worse and worse and gets worse and starts to fall apart. So resist the urge of yanking it, take the time to untangle it and get it off whatever thing that it's stuck on. Otherwise, you're going to be replacing fly lines a lot more than you are today. Okay, for those of you that have been fly fishing a long time, this might seem like a no-brainer, but I can tell you, I taught one person how to fly fish many years ago, and the first thing that person did was set the fly reel down on the ground and started to pull the line through the guides. I have to tell you, I was a little bit shocked because it makes sense, right? Because people that spin fish do that. Well, if you do that with a fly rod, this reel right here is going to start bouncing around on the ground as you're pulling the line through the fly rod itself. So don't ever set it on the ground. Try not to set your fly reel on the ground in the sand and the dirt anyway. Make it a habit to prop it up on a branch, put it up on your tailgate, put it on top of your car. Just don't set the reel on the ground and then start pulling line out. Otherwise, it's going to completely trash your brand new fly reel. Next, there's an accessory that needs to be in your bag, because today there's generally a loop-to-loop connection, right? There's a welded loop at the end of your floating line, and there's a welded loop at the end of your tippet, and you just put those two together and there you go. Well, what happens if you have a line failure, right? What if this floating line, that weld breaks? Because sometimes that happens with these fly lines, right? They'll break the weld loop. You need to have a nail knot tool and learn how to tie the nail knot, because there's nothing worse than having your day wrecked because of a gear failure and you don't know how to tie basically the thick end of a piece of tippet onto the fly line without making it a gigantic knot. So learn the nail knot, get the nail knot tool. They're super cheap. Learn how to tie the nail knot, because it could get you out of a bind if your line were to fail during a fishing trip. All right, we're getting close to the end here. The next tip is learning when to size up or size down with tippet. And what I mean by that, if you're fishing a very clear and spooky fishery, sometimes 4X might be too heavy, right? If you're not getting any hits, but you see fish, but they're ignoring your fly, it might be because they can see your line. So you may have to scale down to a 5X and maybe, God forbid, a 6X, because that's like fishing with your own strand of your hair. But go down to a 5X. And then also, if you switch gears, right, and you start doing streamers, if you have anything lighter than a 3X tippet on, you're gonna snap the streamers off your line. And a lot of times, if a fish goes after a streamer, they really don't give a crap about your line, and they're not leader shy, right, is what they call it. So know when to size up or size down on tippet, and make sure that you're using 3X or greater, heavier, when streamer fishing. Otherwise, you're losing that fly on the backcast. You hear the snap. It's because your 4X tippet cannot handle that heavy streamer that you just tied on. Might handle it for a while, but eventually it's going to snap off on a backcast. All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in, and fish on.